She bent to pick a photograph off the marble floor. It was her own face. Not a photo she'd ever taken. Her, on a metro platform, coffee in hand, caught from across the tracks by someone she never saw, and under it more. Her leaving work, her laughing with a friend. A folder with her name printed on the cover. Melinda Monroe is 27. A black woman, a housekeeper on the VIP floor of a 5-star hotel in Seoul, saving coins in a tin box toward a life of her own. Invisible, the way maids are supposed to be. The suite belongs to Kang Tae-hyun. Tall, black suit. A serpent tattoo curling up the side of his neck. In the city's underworld, they call him the Black Viper. He walks in while the photo is still in her hand. He doesn't look surprised. He looks like a man confirming something. "Why do you have photos of me?" she asks. He closes the door. "Because someone is planning to kill you." She thinks he's the danger. She has no idea her whole ordinary life was built over a secret her father buried, or what she's carrying, right now against her own skin. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Melinda counted the money twice before she believed it. 40,000 won in overtime, folded small, pushed into the tin box she kept behind the cleaning cart's spare linens until she could get it home. 16 hours on her feet. Her calves had stopped aching an hour ago, which was worse than aching, and she knew it. The VIP floor of the Hanwol Seoul was quiet at that hour. Just the hum of the ice machine and the far-off ding of the service elevator. Melinda liked it quiet. Quiet meant no one watched her wipe down a mirror she'd already cleaned once that day. Yoon-hae found her by the linen closet. "You should have gone home 2 shifts ago." "2 men asked for me?" Melinda kept folding. "You said that in the break room." "Guests ask for housekeeping all the time." "Not by your name." Yoon-hae pushed her reading glasses up. "Not standing in the lobby in coats too warm for the elevator. I told them I didn't know a Melinda." Melinda's hand stopped on the towel. Then it kept moving. "They probably wanted a different girl." She touched the locket at her throat without deciding to. "A habit older than the job. Nobody comes looking for the maid." "Somebody did." Yoon-hae held out a service tablet. "One more. Presidential floor. 2701. Guest is out until morning. Full turn down." Melinda took the tablet. She should have said no. Her feet told her to say no. Instead, she thought about the tin box and the small office she'd already half-decorated in her head, the one with her name on the glass, and she said, "One more." The elevator to 2701 needed a keycard even to press the button. Melinda had cleaned that suite exactly 4 times in a year. The men who stayed there tipped in envelopes or not at all, and either way, they never looked at her. The doors opened onto silence and city light. Suite 2701 was all dark wood and cold marble, a wall of glass holding the whole grid of Seoul below like something spilled. She worked the way she always worked. Bed, bath, fresh water on the console. She moved a black suitcase from the middle of the floor so she could vacuum, and that was when she noticed the clasp had sprung. Papers leaned out of the gap, ready to slide. She crouched to push them back before they fell. She was careful with other people's things. It was the whole job. A photograph slipped free and landed face up on the marble. Melinda looked at it the way you look at anything on a floor. Then she stopped breathing. It was her own face, caught from across a metro platform, mid-step, a paper coffee cup in her hand she remembered buying. She hadn't posed. She hadn't known. Someone had stood far away and taken it while she waited for a train. Her fingers found the edge of the suitcase and pulled. There were more. Melinda leaving the hotel's side entrance. Melinda in the doorway of the cafe near her flat. Melinda laughing with Jisoo on a curb 3 weeks ago, a day she could name. And under the photographs, a plain folder. On the cover, printed in clean block letters, her own name. Melinda Monroe. She opened it because her hands opened it before her mind agreed. Her address. Her shift schedule, the real one, the one that changed weekly. A page about a man named Marcus Monroe with dates on it. Her father's name, and one line in Korean she couldn't read, underlined twice. Her pulse was in her ears now, loud enough to drown the ice machine, the elevator, the city. She pulled out her phone. She would photograph every page. She would take it to someone. She would... The suite door opened. Melinda turned on her knees, the folder still in her lap, a photo of herself still pinched between 2 fingers. A man stood in the doorway. Tall. Black suit cut close to a body built for it. Black shirt open at the collar, and at the collar, curling up the left side of his throat, the edge of a tattoo. Something dark, scaled, the head of it hidden under fabric. His eyes went to her, then to the photograph in her hand, then back. He did not look surprised. That was the worst part. He looked like a man confirming something. Neither of them moved. "Why do you have photos of me?" Her voice came out steadier than she was. "Who are you?" He stepped inside. The door swung shut behind him on its own weight, and the click of it going home was very small in that enormous room. "You shouldn't be on this floor tonight. Answer me." She got to her feet, folder pressed to her chest like it could shield her. "These are pictures of me, following me. My address is in here. My father's name is in here." Her breath snagged on the word father. "So, you're going to tell me what this is?" He crossed to the wall of glass, unhurried, and for a moment he only looked at the city. When he spoke, he didn't raise his voice. If anything, he lowered it, and somehow that pinned her to the floor more than a shout would have. "My name is Kang Tae-hyun." He turned. The lamplight found the scaled edge of ink at his neck. "The photographs aren't mine to explain the way you think. I had you found. I had you watched. Not because I wanted you." "Then why?" He looked at her a long second, weighing how much a stranger could hold. "Because someone is planning to kill you," he said. "And until an hour ago, I wasn't sure they hadn't already started." Melinda's grip tightened on the folder. Somewhere below them, a siren rose and thinned and vanished into the grid, and she realized she had stopped hearing her own heartbeat because she had stopped, entirely, for just a moment, to listen to a man tell her that her ordinary life had never been ordinary at all. "You're lying," she said. He didn't answer. He reached past her, pulled a single page from the folder in her hands, and turned it so she could see the line of Korean she couldn't read. "This says, locate and confirm." He said, "Your name is on a list. I'm the one who found it first." She left anyway. Taehyun didn't stop her. He could have. 2 men waited in the corridor, and a word from him would have kept her in that suite all night. Instead, he stepped aside, and Melinda walked out with her chin up and her hands shaking where he couldn't see them. She told herself he was wrong. She told herself all the way down 41 floors. The street was slick with a rain that had come and gone. Melinda pulled her coat tight and started for the bus stop, and half a block later, a man fell into step behind her. Not close, just there. He'd been there since the side entrance. She crossed the road, he crossed. She stopped to look in a dark shop window and watched his reflection stop too, pretending to check a phone that wasn't lit. Near the corner, a second man leaned against a parked sedan, and when she passed, he pushed off it. Her legs understood before her mind did. She walked faster. Then a gray car slid to the curb between her and both men, and a broad figure got out of it without hurry. Han So-jun. She didn't know his name yet. She only knew that the 2 men behind her looked at him, looked at each other, and melted back into the dark like they'd never existed. Ms. Monroe, he opened the rear door. He said you wouldn't get in. I'm supposed to follow you home instead of arguing. She got in. She went back to 2701 the next night, not as a maid. She wore her own coat and made the front desk call up, and when the doors opened, she walked in like she was owed something, because she was. 2 men followed me, she said. You already know that. I know. Taehyun stood at the console, a glass of water in his hand, not drinking it. You came back. I came back because you were right, and I hate that you were right. She stayed near the door. So now you talk, all of it. He set the glass down. A rival organization built a list, people to find. Executives, informants, lawyers who kept copies of things they shouldn't have, old men who used to work for the wrong people. He watched her. Everyone on it makes sense, except one. A hotel maid with no record, no debt, no connection to any of it. Me? You, so I had you investigated before they could. I needed to know what you were. His jaw tightened. Barely. The photographs were my men, not theirs. I'm not going to pretend that's better. It isn't. Her voice cracked and she let it. You put my whole life in a folder. My schedule, my address. You watched me laugh with my friend and you filed it. She pressed the back of her hand to her mouth, then dropped it. I don't care how dangerous you are. You don't get to own a person because you decided to protect them. Something moved behind his eyes. Surprise, maybe. People didn't speak to him like this. I'm offering you a safe house. No. Money then. Enough to disappear until this ends. The word. Money. Landed wrong and she felt her spine straighten. I need protection, she said, not an owner. He was quiet for a long moment. Then we do it your way, he said finally, and she could tell the words were unfamiliar in his mouth. You keep working. Seo Jun stays close. I stay in the hotel while I find out who put your name on that list. He picked the glass back up. You'll hate that too. Probably? Good, he said, and she almost thought he meant it. What bound them, in the end, wasn't the safe house or the money. It was a name. Tell me about your father, Taehyun said, days later, in the same suite, rain running down the glass again. He did logistics, consulting, international companies, shipping routes. Melinda turned the locket over in her fingers. He died when I was 17. Car accident, in Busan, on a work trip. That's all there is. Taehyun didn't say anything for a moment, and the silence had a shape she didn't like. What? Your father wasn't a logistics consultant. He said it gently, which was worse than saying it hard. Marcus Monroe found something. A company being used to move money it shouldn't have. And people. He gathered proof. He tried to hand it to the wrong honest person, and 3 weeks later his brakes failed on a mountain road. The room tilted. Melinda sat, because standing had stopped being possible. You're saying somebody killed my father? I'm saying his accident wasn't one. I've believed that for a long time. I just didn't know his daughter was cleaning rooms 4 floors below me. She heard herself breathe. In, out. Her thumb pressed the locket so hard the edge bit her skin. He sent me this before he died. She lifted the chain. A box, some old photos, a letter that just said he loved me, and this. Taehyun crossed the room and crouched in front of her, closer than he'd ever been, and looked at the little silver oval without touching it. May I? She unclasped it and dropped it into his palm. He turned it under the lamp, pressed the seam with his thumbnail, frowned, pressed again. It doesn't open, Melinda said. It never has. I tried for years. It's not a locket. He held it up so the light ran along a hairline seam no jeweler would leave by accident. There's a mechanism inside. Sealed. Whatever your father hid, he hid it here. and he mailed it to the one person nobody would search. Melinda stared at the thing she'd worn against her chest for 10 years. Then why do those men want me? She said slowly. If the answer's been around my neck the whole time? Taehyun's face changed. Not fear. Calculation. Sharpening into something colder. Because they don't know that yet, he said. But the moment they do, he closed his fist around the locket. This stops being about a list and starts being about the only thing Park Min-jae has wanted for 10 years. Seo-jun cracked the locket open at 3 in the morning, on a felt cloth, with a jeweler's tool and more patience than the room deserved. Inside the sealed half lay a memory card no bigger than a fingernail. They ran it on a machine that touched no network. Melinda watched Taehyun read, and she watched the exact second his face stopped moving. He scrolled again. Then he sat back, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked like a man who'd been hit. What is it? Transfers? Routes? Names? His voice had gone flat. Your father documented all of it. Park Min-jae's whole machine, 10 years of it. He didn't look at her. And the people Min-jae used to work with, before the split. Which people? Mine. He set the card down like it was hot. My father's operation. Crimes that predate me. My family is in these files. Melinda, if this goes to the authorities, it doesn't only bury Min-jae. It buries the Kang name with him. The rain had stopped. The silence after it was total. So that's your choice, she said quietly. Power or the truth? He didn't answer, and the not answering told her how close it was. She was at her flat 2 nights later, packing a bag to move into the annex Taehyun kept for people he was protecting, when she opened her door onto wreckage. Every drawer pulled, the mattress on its side, her books swept to the floor. Nothing taken, she checked, hands trembling, the tin box still there with its folded one. They hadn't wanted money. They'd wanted the one thing she'd been wearing at work. Then she saw the photograph on the floor. Her father, in his tan travel jacket, squinting at a camera on some airport curb. Torn in half through his chest. Something in her simply gave. She was still holding both halves when Taehyun came through the door with Seo-jun behind him. Gun-ready men fanning past her into the ruined rooms. He crossed to her in 3 steps and saw the torn photo and stopped. He didn't tell her it would be all right. He didn't say anything. He put his arms around her, and she let the halves of her father fall, and she gripped the front of his jacket and cried into it in a way she had refused to cry in front of anyone for 10 years. He held still. He held on. And over the top of her head, his eyes were doing arithmetic that ended in one certainty, that he had stopped, somewhere he couldn't name, protecting a witness, and started protecting her. She stayed at the Kang residence after that. It was the only place with walls thick enough. She met So-yeon there, his younger sister, who poured tea without asking, and talked about her brother like he was a person instead of a rumor. He was different before our brother died, So-yeon said, one late night in the kitchen. He learned that whatever he loves becomes a target, so he stopped letting himself love things. She'd smiled at Melinda over the rim of her cup. You're a problem for that theory. Melinda didn't have an answer. She was learning that the cold in Taehyun wasn't the absence of feeling. It was a wall built around too much of it. The message came from Jisoo's number. Melinda, they're here at the hotel asking about you. I'm scared. Please come. I don't know who to call. Every rule they'd given her said call Seo-jun. Stay behind the walls. Don't move. But it was Jisoo. Jisoo who'd laughed with her on a curb in a photograph a killer had studied. Melinda would not let one more person be hurt for standing next to her. She went out the service gate the way only a woman who'd worked in service knew how to find. She was 3 streets from the hotel when the van pulled level with her, and a door slid open, and the world became a bag over her head and a hand on her arm and the smell of cold metal. The building smelled of diesel and dust, an old logistics depot, gutted, echoing. When they pulled the bag off, Park Min-jae was sitting on a folding chair in the middle of it, in a pale gray suit that hadn't creased, turning her locket over in his manicured fingers. "Miss Monroe," he smiled like a host. "Your father was a very careful man. Do you know he built a second lock? The card is encrypted, and the final key isn't a password anyone can steal. It's a memory, something only his daughter would know." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You will." He crossed his legs. "Or your friend at the front desk will learn what happens to people who help you. Jisoo isn't part of this. No one is part of it until they are." He leaned forward, and his voice never rose, and that was the horror of it. "You want to know why your father died, don't you? You've wanted to know for 10 years. Melinda went very still. "It wasn't Kang Tae-hyun," Min-jae said softly. "It wasn't fate. It wasn't a mountain road." He set the locket in his palm and closed his fingers around it, the same gesture Tae-hyun had made, and it curdled her stomach. "I gave the order myself, and I have wanted this little piece of metal back ever since." The depot was cold. Somewhere water dripped in the dark. Melinda stood with her wrists bound and the man who had made her an orphan smiling 3 feet away, and understood, finally, that no one was coming in time, that the only thing standing between her and the truth was the one memory in her own head, and the only choice left to her was what she would do with it. The trace came from inside. Seo-jun found it in an hour. One of Tae-hyun's own men had passed the location of the annex, the schedule, the moment Melinda would be alone, straight to Park Min-jae. Tae-hyun read the name twice, then set the phone down with a control that was more frightening than rage. "Bring the car," he said. "I'm going myself." That's what he wants. I know exactly what he wants. The depot doors were open when he arrived, because Min-jae wanted them open. He wanted Tae-hyun walking in alone, the memory card in his pocket, ready to trade an empire for a maid. Min-jae rose from his folding chair and gestured, almost graciously, at Melinda bound behind him. "You came in person." He sounded delighted. "You never do that. Set the card on the floor and slide it to me, and she walks out of here with all her fingers." He tilted his head. "Tell me, out of curiosity, how much is a hotel maid worth to Kang Tae-hyun?" Tae-hyun didn't reach for his pocket. "More than everything you ever tried to take from me," he said. It was the first thing he had ever said out loud that Melinda knew was true, and she felt it land in her chest, even with a gun in the room. Min-jae's smile thinned. He nodded, and men moved from the shadows, and it began, the flat crack of it, the shouting, Seo-jun and the Kang men pouring through a side door Min-jae hadn't watched. Someone cut Melinda's wrists free and shoved her toward cover. She didn't run. On a table near Min-jae's empty chair sat a battered laptop, cables trailing to a reader, the little memory card seated in it. He'd been copying the files. She understood the machine the second she saw it, because her father had taught her, on rainy afternoons she'd forgotten she remembered, how a thing like this worked, and that was the second lock, the memory only she had, not a password but a pair of hands that knew what to do. She got to the keyboard. Behind the encryption, her father had left a door, and the key was a date she'd typed 100 times as a girl, his birthday, the way he'd always made her enter it. The screen changed, a prompt. A list of addresses he'd chosen a decade ago and trusted her to reach: prosecutors, 2 newspapers, an oversight office. She pressed send. The files went out, all of it. Min-jae's 10 years, and the Kang crimes too, everything, to people who could not be paid to look away. No, Min-jae saw the screen. For the first time, his voice rose. "No." He swung his weapon toward her. Taehyun was already moving. He crossed the space between them and put his body where the shot was going, and the sound of it filled the depot, and he went down against the table with a hand pressed to his side and dark spreading under it. Melinda screamed his name. Min Jae didn't get a second shot. His own men had seen the screen too, had seen their names go out into the world, and a man with nothing left to protect is a man no one obeys. They lowered their guns. Seo Jun took him to the concrete without ceremony. Melinda was on the floor with Taehyun's head in her lap, both hands pressed to his side, saying stay, 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 the only word she had. He woke in a white room to the sound of a heart monitor and the weight of someone asleep against the edge of his bed. Melinda, curled in a chair, one hand still holding his. He looked at her for a long time before she stirred. There was something almost unbearable in it. The man who had kept secret photographs of a woman he'd never met, waking to find the real one there, breathing, chosen. Her eyes opened. "You should still be afraid of me," he said. His voice was a ruin. "I was." "And now?" She looked at him, steady, the locket gone from her throat because the world had it now. "Now I know exactly who you are," she said, and held on. He gave them everything. The old Kang crimes went to the prosecutors, along with Min Jae's, in his own name, and it cost him what he knew it would cost. Money, companies, allies, the political friends who stopped answering. He kept the legitimate businesses and began, quietly, to let the rest die. Not because she asked, she never asked, because he'd finally seen the shape of the cage he'd spent 20 years calling safety. Months later, Melinda left the hotel. Not to be kept, she opened her own company, hospitality and training, the thing she'd been saving for in a tin box, and she found the financing herself. And when Taehyun offered to invest, she said no, and he respected the no more than he would have respected a yes. A year on, she was looking for a phone charger in his study when she found a small box on a shelf. Inside was the photograph. The first one. Her, mid-step on a metro platform, coffee cup in hand, caught by a stranger across the tracks. "You kept it," she said, when he appeared in the doorway. "It was the first time I saw you. Technically, you were investigating me. Technically." Under it lay a second photo. Recent, the two of them, somewhere with light. She turned it over, in his hard, careful hand. "The woman I was supposed to protect became the woman who saved me." When she looked up, he was holding a small box of a different kind. No speech. He wasn't built for speeches. "Stay," he said. Melinda smiled at the man the whole city had taught her to fear, and gave him the only answer that had ever been true. "I already did." If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever been treated as invisible by people who never guessed what you were really carrying? If someone tried to protect you by controlling you, would you still fight to keep your own name, your own choices, your own life? And when the truth about someone you lost finally surfaced, would you be brave enough to open it? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, hidden truth, and dangerous love, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.